Hey there, everyone. Get ready for a super fun story about a guy named Jake Carter. He's just a normal human, at least that's what everyone thinks. Jake works on a big spaceship called Starstrike 1. It's not just any spaceship, though. It's run by Galactic Command, a group of aliens who think they're the bosses of the whole galaxy. Jake's job, he's a mechanic. That means he fixes engines, cleans pipes, and makes sure everything runs smoothly. He's good at it too, but he doesn't brag. He just keeps his head down and does his work. Now the aliens on Starstrike 1 aren't like humans. They're tall, like really tall, taller than your dad standing on a chair. Their skin is shiny, like it's made of silver or gold, and they have way too many eyes. Some have 4, some have 6, and one even has 8. It's kind of creepy if you ask me. These aliens are fancy. They wear bright clothes with lots of buttons and medals, and they walk around like they own the place. To them, humans like Jake are no big deal. They call humans small fries, like we're just tiny French fries on their plate. They think we're only good for boring jobs like fixing stuff. They don't think we're smart or special. Boy, are they wrong about Jake. See, Jake has a secret. A huge one. It's so big that it's going to flip game night upside down and make everyone in the galaxy go, "Whoa, what just happened?" What's the secret? I'm not telling you yet. You'll have to keep reading to find out. Trust me, it's worth it. It's the kind of secret that makes your eyes get wide and your mouth drop open. It's the kind of secret that changes everything. Let's talk about Starstrike 1 for a second. This ship is giant, like a flying city. It's got rooms for sleeping, rooms for eating, and even a big room where the aliens play games. The walls are shiny metal, and there are lights everywhere that blink and glow. It's super cool, but it's also kind of strange if you're a human like Jake. He doesn't get to hang out in the fancy parts of the ship. Nope, he's usually down in the engine room, covered in grease and dirt. The aliens don't invite him to their big parties or their important meetings. They just tell him, "Fix this, Jake," or "Clean that, Jake." And Jake, he says, "Sure," and gets to work. He doesn't complain. He doesn't argue. He just smiles a little and keeps going. But here's the thing, Jake isn't mad about it. He's not sitting there thinking, "Oh, I hate these aliens." Nope, he's watching, he's listening. Every day he sees how the aliens act. He hears what they say. He notices the little things like how they laugh at humans or how they think they're so much better. Jake's quiet, but he's smart. Really smart, smarter than the aliens know. And that's part of his secret. He's got something up his sleeve, something they'd never guess in a million years. Let's imagine Jake for a minute. He's not super tall like the aliens. He's just a regular guy, maybe as tall as your teacher or your uncle. He's got messy brown hair that sticks up because he's always running his hands through it when he's working. His clothes aren't fancy either. He wears a jumpsuit, like a big one-piece outfit that's gray and stained with oil. It's got his name stitched on it, Jake Carter. His hands are rough from fixing things, and he's got a little scar on his cheek from a time an engine part flew at him. He's not loud or flashy. If you saw him walking by, you might not even notice him. That's how he likes it. Being quiet and sneaky is part of what makes Jake so cool. Now let's talk about game night. On Starstrike 1, game night is a big deal. The aliens love it. They play all kinds of games, stuff like cosmic chess and Stargrid. Don't worry if you don't know what those are. They're just games with lots of rules and pieces that move around on a board. The aliens think they're the best at these games. They sit in the game room, laughing and cheering, moving their pieces like it's the most important thing ever. They wear their shiny medals and clap each other on the back when they win. And they always win, always. Humans, they don't even get invited to play. The aliens say humans can't play, they're not smart enough. They laugh and make jokes, and Jake hears it all. But Jake doesn't mind, or at least he doesn't show it. He just keeps working, fixing pipes and tightening bolts. Sometimes he'll walk by the game room and peek inside. He sees the aliens playing, shouting, and having fun. He doesn't say anything, he just watches. His eyes get a little bright, like he's thinking hard. What's he thinking about? That's another hint about his secret. He's not just watching for fun, he's learning. He's figuring things out. And soon, those aliens are going to wish they paid more attention to quiet little Jake. Oh, and before we go any further, I've got a fun question for you. What's your favorite game to play with your friends? Maybe it's tag or hide and seek or something with cards like Uno. Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below. I'm dying to hear. And while you're at it, tell me where you're reading this from today. Are you at home, at school, somewhere else? Let's make this a party. Back to Jake. One day something changes. It's just a normal day on Star Strike 1. The engines are humming, the lights are blinking, and the aliens are bossing everyone around like usual. Jake's down in the engine room, wiping sweat off his face. He's got a wrench in his hand, turning a big bolt. Everything's quiet, well, as quiet as a spaceship can be. Then he hears it. Laughter. Loud, bubbly laughter from the aliens upstairs. They're talking about game night again. Humans wouldn't stand a chance. One of them says, "They're too slow, too dumb." Another adds. Jake stops turning the wrench. He listens. His mouth turns up just a tiny bit, like he's smiling to himself. Why's he smiling? What's so funny? Oh, you're going to love this. See, Jake's secret isn't just that he's smart. It's bigger than that. It's about game night. It's about what's coming. The aliens think they've got everything under control. They think they're the kings and queens of the galaxy. They think humans like Jake are nothing special. But Jake, about to show them something they'll never forget. Game night is coming up soon, and this time it's going to be different, really different. The kind of different that makes your heart beat fast and your hands get sweaty because you can't wait to see what happens next. Picture this, the aliens are getting ready for their big night. They're polishing their game pieces, bragging about who's going to win. They don't even look at Jake as he walks by with his toolbox. To them, he's invisible, just the mechanic, just a human. But Jake's not invisible to us. We know something's up. We know he's got a plan. What's the plan? How's he going to shake things up? I could tell you right now, but where's the fun in that? Let's keep going together and find out step by step. It's going to be awesome. So that's where our story starts. Jake Carter, the quiet human mechanic, stuck on a ship full of bossy aliens who think he's nothing. But he's got a secret, a big, exciting secret that's going to turn game night into the wildest night Star Strike 1 has ever seen. The galaxy won't know what hit it, and those aliens, they're in for a shock, a huge one. Stick with me because this is just the beginning. The fun about to start, and I promise you won't want to miss a single second of it. Okay, let's dive into the next part of our story. Game night was a huge deal on Star Strike 1. Seriously, it was like the biggest party ever for the alien officers. They loved it so much. These tall, shiny-skinned aliens with too many eyes couldn't wait to show off. They played games called Cosmic Chess and Stargrid. Don't worry if those names sound weird. They're just fun games with boards and pieces, kind of like checkers or tic-tac-toe, but way fancier. The aliens were super good at them too. They won every single time, and they made sure everyone knew it. When they played, they'd laugh these strange, bubbly laughs. It sounded like soda fizzing up in a glass. Pop, pop, pop. They'd move their game pieces around like they were the smartest creatures in the galaxy. And while they played, they'd say mean things about humans. Humans don't have the brains for this, one would say, waving his forearms in the air. Yeah, they're too dumb to win, another would add, his 6 eyes blinking all at once. They thought humans were silly and weak, like we couldn't figure out anything tricky. To them, humans were just there to fix stuff, not to play games or be clever. Now let's talk about Jake. Jake Carter, our quiet mechanic, was right there watching all of this. He didn't play the games, not yet anyway. He'd just stand nearby, maybe leaning against a wall with his arms crossed. The aliens didn't pay much attention to him. They were too busy winning and bragging. But one alien, Commander Zylok, loved picking on Jake the most. Zylok was a real jerk. He had 4 big arms, a shiny green face, and a voice that sounded loud and bossy. He'd look down at Jake way down because Zylok was super tall and snap, "Stick to your tools, human, leave the games to us." Then he'd laugh that bubbly laugh and the other aliens would join in. Ouch, right, those words hurt. Imagine someone telling you, "You're not good enough," right to your face. That's what Jake heard all the time. If it were me, I might want to yell back or stomp away. But Jake, he didn't do that, not even a little bit. He just smiled. A small, tiny smile, like he knew something funny that no one else did. Then he'd nod, like he was saying, "Okay, sure," and go back to whatever he was doing. He didn't argue, he didn't fight, he didn't even look mad. That's what made Jake so different. Most people would get upset, but not him. He stayed calm, he stayed quiet, and he kept watching. Here's the thing, something about that quiet grin of his made you wonder. What's this guy up to? Why isn't he mad? Why doesn't he say something back to Zylok? It's like he had a little secret buzzing around in his head and he wasn't ready to tell anyone yet. You could almost see it in his eyes, those bright, sneaky eyes that didn't miss a thing. Every time Zylok said something mean, Jake's grin got just a tiny bit bigger. Every time the aliens laughed at humans, Jake's head tilted just a little, like he was thinking hard. What was he planning? What was he waiting for? Oh, it's so exciting to think about. Let's picture game night for a second. The big room on Star Strike 1 was full of aliens. The walls were shiny silver and the lights blinked all different colors, red, blue, green. The game tables were in the middle, covered with boards and pieces that glowed like little stars. The aliens sat around, moving their pieces and shouting when they won. "Ha, I'm the best," one would yell. "No one can beat me." Another would cheer. They'd high-five with all their extra arms and their bubbly laughs would bounce off the walls. It was loud and wild, like a playground full of kids showing off their toys. Jake wasn't part of that fun, though. He'd walk by sometimes, carrying his toolbox or a rag to wipe his hands. The aliens barely noticed him. To them, he was just the human who fixed pipes. "Oh, there's Jake," they might say, then go right back to their games. But Jake noticed them. He saw how they played. He heard what they said. He watched Zylok the most. That 4-armed commander loved being the loudest. "Humans are no match for us," Xyloc would brag, holding up a game piece like it was a prize. They'd lose in 2 seconds. The other aliens would laugh and nod, agreeing with their bossy leader. But every time Xyloc said something like that, Jake didn't flinch. He didn't frown, he just kept that little smile on his face. It was like he was saying, "Go ahead, keep talking, you'll see." He'd stand there watching the games from the corner of his eye. He'd see how Xyloc moved his pieces so fast, how the other aliens cheered like it was the coolest thing ever. And all the while Jake stayed quiet. He didn't say a word, he didn't need to. That grin of his said it all. He had something up his sleeve, and it was going to be big. The tension was building, even if the aliens didn't know it yet. Every mean word, every laugh, every time they ignored Jake, it was like adding wood to a fire. The aliens thought they were on top. They thought they were unbeatable. They thought Jake was nothing, but Jake wasn't nothing. He was waiting for the right moment, waiting for game night to come around again. And when it did, oh boy, things were going to get crazy. You could feel it in the air, like the quiet before a big storm. Something was coming, and Jake was ready. So there's our conflict, the aliens acting all high and mighty, treating Jake like he's not important, while Jake stays calm and sneaky. And the tension, it's that feeling of what's going to happen next. You know Jake got a secret. You know he's not as simple as he looks. But what is it? How's he going to turn things around? That's what makes this so fun. We're right on the edge, waiting to see what Jake does. Stick with me because this story about to get even better. Alright friends, let's keep going with Jake's story. Weeks went by on Starstrike 1 and nothing changed, at least not on the outside. The aliens kept winning their games. Every night they'd play cosmic chess or Stargrid, and every night they'd win big. They jump up and down, clapping their extra hands and laughing those weird bubbly laughs that sounded like bubbles popping in a soda can. They couldn't stop talking about how great they were. "We're the best," one would shout. "No one can beat us." Another would yell. They were so proud of themselves, and they made sure everyone knew it. Jake was still around, doing his mechanic stuff. He'd fix engines, tighten bolts, and wipe grease off his hands with an old rag. The aliens didn't care about him. They'd walk right past him, bragging about their latest win, not even looking his way. To them, he was just the quiet human who kept the ship running. But Jake, he was watching, always watching. He'd stand in the shadows, his brown hair messy from work, and listen to every word they said. He didn't miss a thing. Then one night, something happened. It was a game night like any other. The big room was loud with aliens shouting and laughing. The tables were covered with glowing game pieces, and the air smelled like the sweet snacks they ate while they played. Commander Xyloc was in the middle of it all, acting like the king of everything. He had 4 arms, remember, so he could move pieces super fast and show off even more. He was winning again, of course, and the other aliens were cheering for him. Their shiny eyes glowed bright, like little lights in the dark. That's when Xyloc noticed Jake. Jake was walking by with his toolbox, probably heading to fix something. Xyloc stopped playing for a second and looked at him. A big, mean grin spread across his green face. He picked up one of the game pieces, a little glowing star, and tossed it right at Jake. It bounced off Jake's chest and landed on the floor with a tiny clink. "Why don't you try human?" Xyloc said, his voice loud and nasty. "Oh wait, you'd lose in 10 seconds. He laughed hard, and the other aliens joined in. Their glowing eyes twinkled as they stared at Jake, making fun of him. It was like a big group of bullies picking on someone smaller. If that happened to you, you might feel mad or embarrassed, right? You might want to run away or yell something back, but Jake didn't do any of that. He just bent down, picked up the little star piece and held it in his hand. He twirled it between his fingers like it was a toy he was playing with. Then he looked up at Xylock and said, "Maybe I will. How about next game night?" His voice was calm, not loud or angry. He didn't sound scared at all. He sounded sure, like he meant it. The room went quiet, super quiet. You could hear the hum of the ship's engines because no one was laughing anymore. The aliens stopped moving. They stared at Jake with their many eyes, blinking like they couldn't believe what he just said. Xylock's grin turned into a smirk, a snaky, mean little smile. "Fine," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Your funeral. That's a scary thing to say, right? It's like saying, you're going to mess up so bad, it'll be the end of you." The other aliens giggled a little, but it wasn't as loud as before. They were curious now. What was Jake thinking? Here's the cool part. Jake wasn't nervous. Not even a tiny bit. Most people would be shaking if they challenged someone like Xylock. He was big, loud, and mean. But Jake, he just smiled, that small, sneaky smile of his. Then he started whistling a little tune like he didn't have a care in the world. He turned around and walked away, his toolbox swinging in his hand. If you looked close, really close, you'd see his eyes sparkle. They weren't dull or tired. They were bright like stars, full of something exciting. What did he know that the aliens did? Oh, this was getting good. Let's think about that for a second. Jake didn't act like someone who was scared or unsure. He acted like he had a plan, a big one. The aliens thought he was crazy for saying he'd play. They thought he'd lose fast, just like Xylock said, but Jake's whistle and that sparkle in his eyes told a different story. It was like he was saying, "Just wait, you'll see." He wasn't afraid of Xylock or the games or anything. He was ready. Ready for what? That's the fun part, we don't know yet. But it's starting to feel like something wild is coming. The aliens went back to their game after Jake left. They laughed again, but it wasn't as loud. They kept playing, moving their pieces, winning like always. But now something felt different. Jake's words stuck in the air. "How about next game night?" he'd said. It was like a little seed planted in their minds. They didn't think he could do anything special. They still thought he was just a silly human, but they were starting to wonder, just a little. And that's where the countdown to chaos began. Back in the engine room, Jake kept working. He turned a wrench here, wiped some oil there. He didn't talk to anyone about what happened. He didn't brag or tell his human friends, "Hey, I'm going to play against Xylock." Nope. He stayed quiet, like always, but he wasn't the same old Jake anymore. Something was building up inside him. Every twist of his wrench, every whistle he let out, it was like he was getting ready. The next game night was coming, and it wasn't going to be like the others. Not at all. The aliens didn't know it yet, but Jake was about to shake things up. That little moment with the game piece, that wasn't just a funny thing that happened, it was the start of something huge. Jake wasn't going to just sit there and let them laugh at him forever. He'd been watching for weeks, months, maybe learning how they played, seeing how they acted, and now he was stepping up. He wasn't nervous because he knew something big. Something that was going to make Xylock's mean smirk disappear. So the tension was growing. The aliens kept winning and bragging, but Jake was getting ready to surprise them. That small revelation, he saying he'd play, was just the beginning. It was like the first drop of rain before a big storm. What did Jake know? How was he going to do it? We're getting closer to finding out, and it's going to be so much fun. Next game night was on its way, and with it, chaos was coming. Jake was counting down, and the aliens had no idea what was about to hit them. Let's keep going, this is getting too good to stop. Okay friends, here we go, the big moment you've been waiting for. Game night finally arrived on Starstrike 1, and wow, it was wild. The rec hall, the big room where they played games, was packed full of aliens. They were everywhere, pushing and shoving to get a good spot. Their shiny skin glowed under the blinking lights, and their extra eyes, 4, 6, even 8, stared at the game table. They weren't there to cheer for Jake, though. Oh no. They were there to watch him crash and burn. They thought he'd mess up big time and give them something to laugh about. Boy, were they in for a shock. The game they were playing was called Stargrid. It's a tricky one with lots of rules that twist and turn like a maze. Even I can't explain it all without taking a big breath. Picture a board with glowing pieces, stars, circles, and squares that you move around to win. It's hard, and the aliens loved it because they were so good at it. They thought no human could ever figure it out. That's why they were so excited to see Jake try. They were sure he'd lose fast and look silly. The rec hall was buzzing with noise. Aliens were whispering and giggling, their bubbly laughs popping in the air. The tables were set up in the middle, and the biggest one was for Jake and Zylok. Zylok, that mean, four-armed commander, strutted in like he owned the place. His green skin shined, and his medals clinked on his chest. He sat down, smirking at Jake, who was already there waiting quietly. The crowd cheered for Zylok, clapping their hands, all their extra hands, and shouting, "Go, Commander!" Show that human who's boss. Zylok loved it. He waved his arms and laughed, ready to win like always. Jake didn't say much. He just sat there in his gray jumpsuit, his messy hair sticking up a little. His toolbox was off to the side, he didn't need it now. He looked small next to Zylok, who was tall and loud. The aliens thought Jake didn't stand a chance. They were ready to see him fail, but Jake, he wasn't scared. His eyes had that sneaky sparkle again, like he knew something big was coming, and it was. Zylok went first. He grabbed a glowing star piece and moved it fast, bam, across the board. "Ha!" he shouted, "beat that human." The crowd cheered again, clapping and stomping their feet. Zylok kept going, making cocky moves and talking loud. "This is too easy," he bragged. "You're done already." He was so sure he'd win in just a few turns. The aliens nodded, their eyes glowing bright, thinking Jake was about to lose big. Then it was Jake's turn. He didn't rush. He leaned forward, slow and calm, and cracked his knuckles, pop, pop. It was like he was waking up his hands for something awesome. He looked at the board, his eyes sharp, and then bam, he moved his piece. It wasn't a little move, it was a smart one, a really smart one. The crowd blinked. All those alien eyes stopped glowing for a second. They weren't sure what just happened. Zylok frowned, his big smirk fading a little. "Lucky move," he muttered, brushing it off. But it wasn't luck. Round after round, Jake kept going. He moved his pieces like he'd been playing Stargrid forever. Every time Zylok made a big loud move, Jake answered with something better. The aliens started whispering. "Wait, what?" one said. "How'd he do that?" Another asked. Zylok's frown got deeper. His forearms moved faster, trying to keep up, but Jake didn't slow down. He didn't just keep up, he took over. He was winning, winning. The crowd got quieter. The bubbly laughs stopped. They couldn't believe it. Finally, it was the last move. The board was full of pieces, and Zylok was sweating. Yes, aliens can sweat. He made his move, thinking he'd trap Jake. "Got you now," he yelled, slamming his piece down, but Jake just smiled. That small, sneaky grin grew wide. He picked up his last piece, a little glowing square, and slammed it down hard. "Checkmate, Commander," he said, his voice clear and strong. Checkmate means the game over, you win, they lose, and Jake won. The room exploded, not with cheers but with gasps, big loud gasps, like everyone sucked in air at once. Aliens dropped their snacks, their jaws fell open, Xylox most of all. His green face turned pale and his forearms froze. "Impossible," he shouted, jumping up. How? He couldn't believe it. The great Commander Xylox beaten by a human? No way. The other aliens rubbed their eyes like maybe they were seeing things wrong. But they were. Jake had won. He'd beaten them all. Jake leaned back in his chair, still grinning. The crowd was silent now, waiting. What was he going to say? How did he do it? Then Jake spoke, and his words were the best part. "I've been watching you play for months," he said, looking right at Xylox. "Every night I watched, I learned, and oh, one more thing, I invented this game back on Earth." Surprise! Boom! That was it, the big reveal. Jake wasn't just a mechanic, he was a genius. A super smart guy who made Stargrid himself back home before he ever came to space. And the aliens, they had no clue. Xylox's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. He didn't know what to say. The crowd started buzzing again, but this time it was different. "He made the game," one alien whispered. "A human did that," another said. They looked at Jake, really looked at him for the first time. His jumpsuit was still dirty, his hair was still messy, but now he didn't seem small. He seemed big, bigger than Xylox, bigger than all of them. Let's think about that. Jake had been quiet for months, watching every move, every game. He didn't just learn how to play, he learned how to win. And the whole time, he knew Stargrid was his game. He made it. Back on Earth, he'd come up with the rules, the pieces, everything. The aliens thought they were so smart, but Jake was smarter, way smarter. They'd laughed at him, called him dumb, tossed pieces at him. Now they weren't laughing, they were stunned. This was the climax, the top of the story mountain. Everything built up to this, Jake sitting there victorious, while Xylox and the aliens stared in shock. The big reveal wasn't just that he won, it was that he'd been a secret genius all along. A human beating them at their own game, no, his game. The rec hall was still loud with whispers and gasps, but Jake just sat there, cool as can be. He'd done it. He'd turned everything upside down, and oh man, it felt so good to see. What happens next? Let's find out soon. This is too awesome to stop. Alright friends, we're at the part where everything settles down after Jake's big win. The fallout, the stuff that happened right after was instant. Like super fast. As soon as Jake said, "Checkmate, Commander," and dropped that huge surprise about inventing Stargrid, the rec hall went crazy. But not in a fun way for Xylox. Oh no, that four-armed, shiny-skinned commander was mad. Really mad. His green face turned red, well, as red as alien skin can get, and his big smirk was gone. He didn't say a word. He just stormed off, stomping his feet so hard the floor shook a little. He was humiliated, which means he felt super embarrassed in front of everyone. And trust me, he didn't like that one bit. The other aliens, they didn't know what to do. They just stood there staring at Jake like he'd grown a second head. Their glowing eyes, 4, 6, 8, all of them blinked fast, like they couldn't believe what they saw. 1 minute, they'd been laughing at Jake, thinking he was nothing. Now, he'd beaten their best player, their big shot commander, at a game they loved. And he'd invented it. They didn't cheer or clap. They just whispered to each other, their bubbly laughs all gone. "Did that really happen?" one asked. A human beat Xyloc, another said. They were shocked and it was awesome to see. Word spread fast, like wildfire racing through dry grass. By the next hour, everyone on Starstrike 1 knew what Jake did. The mechanics down in the engine room heard it. The cooks in the kitchen heard it. Even the aliens polishing their fancy metals heard it. Jake won Stargrid, they said. He beat Xyloc. And then the biggest part, he made the game himself. It was like a wave rolling through the ship. Everyone was talking about Jake, the quiet human who turned game night into a total surprise. Pretty soon, the news reached Galactic Command. That's the group of big bosses who run everything in the galaxy. They're super important aliens with lots of power and they don't like surprises. When they heard about Jake, they freaked out. They called an emergency meeting right away. Picture a big room with a long table, all shiny and silver, and a bunch of aliens sitting around it. They had tall hats and serious faces, and they were not happy. Humans are too sneaky. One officer whined, waving his 3 arms in the air. His voice was high and squeaky, like he was about to cry. They turn a simple game into a takeover, another cried, slamming his 6-fingered hand on the table. They were scared of Jake and what he did. The meeting went on for hours. They argued and shouted, trying to figure out what to do. Humans can't be trusted. One said, they're tricky. Another added, they didn't like that Jake, a human, had outsmarted them. To them, humans were supposed to be small and quiet, not clever and strong. Jake's win made them feel silly and they hated that. Finally, one of the bosses stood up. He was the tallest, with 8 eyes and a deep voice. Enough, he boomed. No more human-hosted game nights, ever. The room went quiet. They all nodded. By morning, the order came down to Starstrike 1. Humans weren't allowed to run game nights anymore. Not a single one. It was a rule now, written in big letters for everyone to see. Back on the ship, Jake heard the news. Did he get mad? Nope. Did he yell or complain? Not at all. He just shrugged like it was no big deal. He picked up his toolbox, put on his greasy jumpsuit, and went back to fixing engines. That's Jake for you, calm and cool even after everything. He didn't need to brag or show off. He'd already done what he wanted. He'd shown them all that he wasn't just a mechanic. He was smart, really smart, and now everyone knew it. But here's the best part. Things changed for Jake after that. The crew, the other humans who worked on the ship, started treating him differently. Before they'd say, "Hey Jake," and keep walking. Now they gave him nods of respect. It's like a little head tilt that says, "You're awesome." When he walked by with his wrench, they'd smile and whisper, "That's the guy who beat Xyloc." They were proud of him. Even the aliens couldn't ignore it. The shiny-skinned officers, the ones with all the medals and extra eyes, kept their distance. They didn't laugh at him anymore. They didn't toss game pieces or call him human like it was a bad word. They just watched him, quiet and careful. Xyloc, he didn't come near Jake either. After storming off, he stayed away. Some said he locked himself in his room, too embarrassed to show his face. Others said he was yelling at his game pieces, trying to figure out how he lost. Either way, he wasn't the big, loud commander anymore. Jake had taken that away from him, not with fighting or shouting, but with brains and a plan. And that's what made it so great. Jake didn't need to be mean or bossy. He just needed to be himself, smart, sneaky, and ready. Let's picture Jake now. He's down in the engine room, turning a bolt with his wrench. The ship hums around him and the lights blink like always. His jumpsuit's still dirty, his hair's still messy, but he's different. He's not invisible anymore. The crew respects him. The aliens are a little scared of him. And Galactic Command, they made a whole rule because of him. That's power right there, quiet power. He didn't need to yell or fight. He just showed them, don't mess with a human who's got a plan. Justice was served, friends. Xyloc and the aliens thought they could keep laughing at Jake forever. They thought he was nothing, just a guy with tools. But Jake proved them wrong. He took their game, their pride, and turned it all around. Now they couldn't laugh. Now they had to think twice before picking on a human. And the best part, Jake didn't even care about the rule. No more game nights, fine. He'd already won the biggest one. He went back to his work happy and calm, while the aliens scrambled to figure out what happened. So the story wrapped up with Jake on top, not loud or flashy, but strong in his own way. The aliens learned their lesson. Humans aren't small fries, they're clever and they can surprise you. Xyloc's humiliation was the cherry on top. He'd never live it down. And Galactic Command's new rule, it was proof Jake had shaken things up for good. He'd shown them all, and now the ship was a little quieter, a little more respectful. Justice felt good, didn't it? Let's see what's next for Jake. This adventure's too fun to end. Okay, friends, we've reached the end of Jake's amazing story, and that's why Galactic Command said no more human game nights. It wasn't just because they lost a game. Nope, it was way bigger than that. It was about how they didn't see Jake coming. They underestimated him big time. They thought he was just a quiet mechanic, someone small and not important. But Jake proved them wrong. He showed that sometimes the person you don't notice, the one who stays silent and watches, is the one who can change everything. Think about it. Jake didn't yell or fight. He didn't need to be loud or mean. He just kept his head down like he always did, fixing engines and listening. He watched the aliens play their games for months. He saw how they moved, how they bragged, how they laughed at him. And he waited. He waited for the perfect moment. Then when it came, he made his move. Bam! He beat Xyloc, won Stargrid, and told everyone he invented it. That's so cool, right? The quiet guy turned out to be the smartest one in the room. Here, what we can learn from Jake: don't let people counting you out stop you. Maybe someone told you you can't do this or you're not good enough. Maybe they've laughed at you or ignored you. That's okay. You don't have to prove them wrong right away. You can be like Jake. Keep your head down, watch closely, and wait for your chance. When the time's right, step up and show them what you've got. You might surprise everyone just like Jake did. Who knows, you could rewrite the rules too. Maybe it's not a game like Stargrid. Maybe it's something else, something you're really good at. It could be drawing, running, telling stories, or helping your friends. Whatever it is, don't let anyone make you feel small. Jake didn't. He stayed calm, he stayed smart, and he won. You can do that too. The quiet ones, the ones people overlook, they've got power inside them. Jake showed us that, and now we know it's true. So what did you think of Jake's big win? I bet you were cheering when he said, "Checkmate, Commander." I know I was. Drop your thoughts below. I'd love to hear what you liked best. Did you love how he tricked Xyloc, or how he stayed cool the whole time? Tell me everything. And while you're at it, let me know where you're reading this from today. Are you at home, at school, or somewhere fun? Let's keep this party going. Hey, one last thing, stay awesome out there. You've got your own spark, just like Jake. Maybe you're quiet, maybe you're loud, but either way you're special. Don't forget that. Next time you feel like no one sees you, remember Jake Carter. He turned a whole spaceship upside down with one game. You've got your own moves to make, and I can't wait to see what you do with them. Keep being you, because that's more than enough. See you next time for more fun stories.